call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Derrick Lewis takes on Tallison Teixeira this Saturday at UFC Fight Night Nashville, Tennessee. And this is a kind of a weird main event, honestly. Derrick Lewis, been out of the game for a while now. Hasn't fought since May of 2024, so been out about 14 months, taking on Tallison Teixeira, who's pretty new to the UFC. Made his debut, when was it, last February against Austen Tafa. Got a 35-second KO, taking a big step up in competition here against somebody like Derrick Lewis. Don't know a lot about Teixeira. Obviously, undefeated fighter, 8-0, big dude, 6'7" with an 83-inch reach, 263 pounds, so very big for a heavyweight. Obviously going to have the reach and height advantage against Derrick Lewis, but Derrick Lewis, 28-12, has a lot of experience in the UFC, been in a lot of main events, fought for the title, fought the who's who at heavyweight. So kind of wondering why they made this matchup and if Tallison Teixeira is going to be ready to take on somebody like Derrick Lewis. Second fight in the UFC, main event slot. Just might be seems like it could be potentially a little bit too much too soon for the guy who's only 8-0, but a lot of finishing potential. Made easy work of Austen Tafa in his UFC debut, no jitters, no nothing like that. Had a first round finish against Arthur Lopez on the Contender Series. So who knows? All first round finishes, other than a modified rules kickboxing match back in the day, but in terms of MMA, all first round finishes by submission or KO. So Derrick Lewis, we all know Derrick Lewis, been in the game for a long time, getting up there in age though. He's 40 years old. Like I said, 28-12, had a lot of success in the UFC. Been fighting in the UFC since 2014, so almost 11 years since he was 29. He's 6'3" with a 79-inch reach, so he's going to be 4 inches shorter and going to give up a 4-inch reach advantage in this one. So Derrick Lewis, powerful striker, looking to get the knockout. Throws really clubbing shots with a lot of power. Has a really good sneaky high kick. Been grappling a lot as of late too against Rodrigo Nascimento. We saw him using the clinch very well, kind of tiring Rodrigo out before getting the KO. In the Jailton Almeida fight, he was out grappled pretty badly in that one. Rogerio de Lima before that had a really quick flying knee KO 33 seconds in, but then lost his previous 3 fights before that. So his cardio's looked a little better as of late. Going into that Almeida fight, he did have like 2 torn shoulders that I believe he just got surgery on. But outside of that, Derrick Lewis is looking to get the kind of mixed up, make it a little gritty with the dirty boxing, but looking to get the knockout on the feet. Doesn't have the best takedown defense or grappling. He has some sneaky trips that we saw against Tai Tuivasa Nascimento, but getting taken down pretty easily by Nascimento as well as Jailton Almeida. Just kind of lays on his back. Doesn't have a lot of technique getting up. Will kind of just stand up at times, which is just kind of crazy. Just uses his brute strength to get straight up, but a lot of times just laying flat on his back and looks kind of lost on the ground. So Tallison Teixeira, like I said, very new in the game. A lot of potential, young, 25 years old, not even in his prime yet. And it's hard for me to pick him in this fight at first, just because he is so young. We don't really know a lot about the guy, but I am going to go with him in this one because I know, he's going to be the bigger guy. He's got a crazy reach advantage, height advantage, a lot of finishing potential. And that's what I do know about him is he finishes fights. He's got power on the feet. Derrick Lewis, I just haven't been convinced of Derrick Lewis. He's been very 50-50 since he lost that fight to Cyril Gane. Beat Nascimento, who I see now over in PFL, still not doing well over there. Beats Rogerio de Lima. Who knows how that fight goes if he doesn't land the flying knee at first. Beats Chris Daukaus, but everybody's knocking out Chris Daukaus. Lost to Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Pavlovich, Sergey Spivak, Cyril Gane. He's beating okay guys, but then he has he's got a lot of losses on his record too, and a lot of them are as of late. Since 2022, he's 2-4. He's 40 years old. He's taken a lot of damage. He's been knocked out a few times. And Tallison Teixeira, he's got a really long jab that he fights behind. I think he'll be able to pick at Derrick Lewis, pick and move, land some good shots. Derrick Lewis is going to be looking to land, those big hooks, and I think Tallison Teixeira will be able to kind of stay defensively responsible and away from those. In some of his regional fights, I was seeing he was getting hit. But in his fight with Justin Tafa, I mean, granted it's Justin Tafa, which, isn't really anything to write home about, but did a really good job in that fight, just putting it on him, landed a nasty elbow in the first clinch that they were in and got the guy out of there. He's got really powerful kicks, long straight punches, lands them at full extension. He's hitting guys at the very end of his punches where he can take advantage of that reach advantage as well as get full extension and full power on him. He was getting hit in his Dana White's Contender Series fight by Arthur Lopez, had his mouthpiece knocked out, and at times he kind of keeps his hands low, doesn't bring his hands back to his face quickly after throwing punches. Sticks the jab out there, kind of brings it back to his waist, doesn't move his head well at times. Tries to roll with punches as they come in, almost like he assumes his weight and his distance management will keep him safe, but that's something that he really needs to get in check going into this one against Derrick Lewis, because he's not one of these regional guys that he's been fighting who's 4-15 or 2-1. Like, Derrick Lewis is very good at finding that kill shot, timing his strikes effectively, and I think that Derrick Lewis could chin Tallison Teixeira just because he's got much more experience in the octagon. He's been in the main events before. He's got tons of power. I see holes in Tallison's game, but at the same time, I just don't know how much long Derrick Lewis has it in the game. Going 3 rounds with Rodrigo Nascimento, getting completely dominated by Almeida on the ground. And, Tallison Teixeira, he started jiu-jitsu at 8 years old. Like, he started as a grappler. Was a 3-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, 2-time Bahia State Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, and has his black belt in Jiu-Jitsu now. So could use that height, could use his size to get Derrick Lewis to the ground, who, like I said, hasn't shown the best takedown defense. Could see him tripping him, getting him to the ground, mixing in the takedowns, threatening the takedowns, the wrestling, the grappling to open up his strikes on the feet. And there's just too much in Tallison's favor. Tons of momentum, undefeated, much younger, 15 years younger, 4-inch reach and height advantage. Lewis, he's been in the UFC for 11 years, but he's 40 years old. He's been in a lot of wars. He's been KO'd, TKO'd, been face planted. I think the UFC, they're trying to build Tallison Teixeira off of Derrick Lewis, use his name value to build up this young up-and-coming, finisher, this knockout artist. But it is a concern. Teixeira hasn't been out of the first round. He finishes guys very quickly. Now you're getting thrown into a 5-round fight against a vet, a decade's worth vet in Derrick Lewis. And, if it gets into the second round, the third round, the fourth round, and Derrick Lewis is still there throwing hammers at you, how is Tallison going to react? We really don't know yet, but it's hard for me to pick against the guy who's 15 years younger and has a 4-inch reach, height advantage, and tons of momentum the way that Tallison Teixeira has right now. So I think Tallison will invest in the leg kicks against Derrick Lewis, kind of like we saw Cyril Gane do and have a lot of success with. Get Derrick Lewis to kind of slow down, not allow him to close the distance as well as he wants to, take a little bit of his snap and power away from his punches. And I think Tallison Teixeira can get him out of there. I think he can, blast him in the first round. We've seen Derrick Lewis get finished in the first round a couple times now. Against Sergey Spivak, got choked out, and then Sergey Pavlovich knocked him out in round 1. Daniel Cormier got him out of there in round 2. Junior Santos got him out of there in round 2. So he can be finished early, and I feel like that's what Tallison Teixeira will do here. He's got more ways to win. He can knock you out. He can get the submission against Derrick Lewis if he gets it to the ground. I don't know if he'll get the finish because, Derrick Lewis, he doesn't do a very good job at getting up, but he is pretty defensively sound on the ground just because he is very big and strong. Got a belly on him, hard to move, hard to manipulate him. We saw Jailton Almeida be on top of him for about 5 rounds, and if he can't get the finish, I don't know if Tallison Teixeira will. But I wouldn't be surprised if Teixeira could get the finish on the ground. Derrick Lewis, like I said, is coming off of some shoulder surgeries as well, so it's just like, how is he going to bounce back from this? Been out of the octagon for so long, 40 years old, and I know you can be older in these higher weight classes, but at this point in Derrick Lewis's career and the way that he's looked as of late, I just don't know how he's going to show up. Which form of Derrick Lewis are we going to see to show up to this fight? And I haven't looked at the odds yet. When I was doing my breakdowns, they weren't out yet. So let's see. Derrick Lewis is plus 200 underdog. Tallison Teixeira minus 260, which I can get. Seems a little steep just because, again, Tallison Teixeira very new to the company. We don't know a lot about him, but 15 years younger, tons of finishing potential, reach advantage, can strike, can grapple. You know, he's one of the few guys we have at heavyweight, I feel like right now, who's got he's got skills everywhere. You know, he's got the physical tools and the technical skills to be a force at heavyweight if he continues to finish fights the way that he's doing. But his striking defense, again, is a concern of mine. His experience in going past the first round, even a 3-rounder he hasn't been to, that's a concern of mine. And just being in the UFC in the main event in your second fight in the organization, we've seen that not pan out very well for a lot of guys. I don't know why the UFC still does that, because they kind of put an end to hype trains on guys that they should probably be building up a little bit more slowly. But I am going to go with Tallison Teixeira in this one to get this one done. I think he gets Derrick Lewis out of there by knockout. Thanks.